I always need to have this feeling of freedom. When I feel like a prisoner somewhere, I try to destroy things. I had a quality as a player when I was young, very young, and I started as a professional. I was 17 years old. I started for the national team. I was 20 years old. So everything went well, very well, and sometimes as a young player, it's difficult to deal with everything. You know, as you know, every step it's a challenge every time. So after the national team, after I became international, maybe I didn't deal very well with some things, and for some players. It's time to realize or not. They disappeared completely or not. And I've been lucky to have this reaction and say, maybe I am the problem. And I have to find a place, maybe somewhere where I can feel better also. So it's why I came to England. Because before I came to England, I retired from football. I was 24, 25 years old. I retired for 3 months. Platini, who was a manager of France, asked me. He said, "No, you cannot retire now. You have to come back." And I said, "No, I don't want to go back to football. I don't want to go in a Mediterranean country." He said, "Maybe England, it's possible for you." So it's how I came to England. And then, of course, I met everything I needed, and I had this freedom. And I had this feeling of freedom when I came here.
Eric, did you love football, or did you see it as a job?
No. I love football. I never seen it as a job, and I still don't see it as a job, even if I don't play. I hope the young generation don't see it as a job.
Right.
I have my son, he's 14 years old, and we only speak about football and the love of football and the passion of football. I would have paid millions to play football. I've been paid to play football, but I could have paid a lot of money to play football. I love football. I loved football. I was passionate by football. I was thinking about football. Yeah, I had other passions, but football was the main thing. But I said when I was young, if I lose, I said to some journalists, and they couldn't believe me. I said when I will feel that I lose a passion for football, I will retire. And I lost a passion for football.
Why did you lose it, Eric? Why did it?
I don't know. Maybe because I wanted to do something else. I started to think about something else. And inspiration, it's very strong on the body, you know. When you start to think about something, you start to be in an imaginary world. It's very strong. So I couldn't be at 100%. I couldn't think and be concentrated on 100% in football. It's why I said maybe it's because you lose the passion, so it's time to retire. And I retired. I was 30 years old.
And I was just about to say that. You mentioned that you retired for 3 months before you came to England, but you also finished football at 30. I mean, 30 is such a young age. I mean, some would say that your best years are maybe still ahead of you, but you decided to finish at 30.
Yeah, because for me, the best years was behind me.
Really?
You spoke about the love of football and the passion of football. I think if you don't do it at 100% with passion and love, you cannot play at 100%. And me, what was the most important thing for me is not even play football, it's to feel the fire inside of me, to feel the excitement of the things. And football gives me this excitement, give me the opportunity to feel this excitement, this fire inside of me, until I decided to retire.
We've got to talk about Eric. I mean, we'll talk about a few of the lads, but Eric, I mean, we've heard all different descriptions. Was he the final piece for that particular time, the jigsaw, to take it to the next level?
I think you've got to look at the stats and say that he was. I think the team was pretty strong before he got there. I think the mentality had toughened up since losing the league to Leeds. I think we probably would have gone on and won the next league without him. But I think he certainly brought a creativity, an arrogance and an aggression And I think he was probably the cherry on top of the cake. I think he came into the dressing room as one of the boys straight away. There was never an issue with him in the dressing room. And yeah, I think he added that little touch of class and that little bit of creativity in the final third. Because a lot of the teams used to come to Old Trafford, as they still do, and just camp and park the bus on the edge of the box.
Yeah.
And we needed someone that could do something a little bit different and unlock these tight defences, and he certainly did that.
Yeah. We've got to talk about Palace, haven't we? Crystal Palace, I mean, you tell the story brilliant. Just give us the bigger overview of that particular night and, what was it like to be in the heart of it all?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to understand the conditions. It was blowing an absolute gale force wind from one end of the pitch to the other. The pitch was bone hard and bobbly. So it wasn't conducive to a nice game of football. It was always going to be a bit of kick and rush, and the ball's bouncing all over the place, and there's some nasty tackles going in the day when you could still get away with a decent tackle. And Eric's getting bullied all first half, and he goes for the ball. He's getting smashed into the back of when he's trying to hold it up. He's getting elbows across his jaw when he's going for headers. He's getting 2-footed. And a lot of people don't realise he's getting very frustrated within half an hour of the game. In the last 10 or 15 minutes of the first half, he's trying to go in 2-footed. He's leading elbows with his headers with his elbow, and he's trying to get people back. And we can see he's getting a little bit hot under the collar. And a couple of the senior boys pulled the manager at half time and said, "Listen, Gaffer, you might want to think about bringing the Frenchman off, because we seriously think he's going to hurt somebody." And he says, "Oh no, I've just pulled him in the tunnel. I've told him to take a deep breath and count to 10 to calm down. We need him out there to win us the second half, and he's promised me he's going to do something special." So like, oh, all right, okay, we'll see what happens then. So sort of 10-15 minutes into the second half, keeper kicks the ball out, catches on one of these gusts of wind. Eric turns around to chase it. Centre halves all over him like a rash. He loses his temper, turns around, volleys the centre half straight up the backside, 3 yards from the ref. Ref has no option, straight to his top pocket, red card, you're off. Yeah. We're on the pitch thinking, geez, this is a dogfight as it is. We're down to 10 men. We've got a game in our hands. The game continues. 20, 30 seconds later, we had a big cheer. We look over and there's Eric flying across the bollard, across the fence, kung fu kicking this guy in the chest. He then gets up off the floor, like left uppercuts him, right hooks him, guys picking up teeth and flying all over the place. We're thinking, oh my God, Eric's going to kill someone. But we're also thinking the manager can't have a go at us now for a poor sort of performance. So we get the final whistle goes, and usually it's like a bit of a clap to the fans, all this, and I think it was Keeney whistle, everyone, come on lads, let's get in the dressing room, this is going to be hilarious. So get in there and all the lads...
It was 1-1, wasn't it?
It was 1-1, yeah, finished 1-1, which is not a great result for us. 10 men, Crystal Palace away in tough conditions. You would say it's not a bad result, but it's not ideal. We look to win everywhere we go, and so we're on... Keeney's like, put the towels over your clothes, make sure your clothes stay dry, and keep your head down, don't make eye contact. He's going to go ballistic. It's going to be funny. Watch and learn. So we're all sat in the dressing room nudging each other like school kids, and he comes in, the manager, absolutely raging. Scarlet face, bits of froth in the corner of his mouth, white knuckles are on. Medical bench in the middle of the room, balls and shirts to be signed, pots of tea and coffee and plates of sandwiches, hats fucking off the turn and flying everywhere. We're getting scolded. Egg cress sandwiches then. They're like, oh my God, he's going to kill you. What's this? This is going to be hilarious. Then he starts, Pallister, you can't tackle Coley. You can't trap a bag of cement. You've not passed a red shirt all day. Keeney, you've not laid a glove on anybody. Sharmy, my grandmother's quicker than you. What the fuck you do stood out there? The lawyer. History of this club, travelling fans, performance like that. It's a disgrace. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, what are you f***ing balls up? And Eric, you can't go around doing things like that, son. And the place just, you could hear a pin drop, and we all just went, has that just really happened?
Yeah.
We've just been absolutely caned, and he's nearly killed someone, and you've said nothing. And that was just the nature of the beast. That was just how it was.
I think you've said it a few times, though. The gaffer did treat him a little bit special.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. No, he was the golden child. But it was, I mean, certainly from my perspective, I was still a young lad in a man's dressing room. Whether there was any animosity, jealousy, or bitterness from some of the senior pros, I never saw it. I never felt it. I think they all knew that he was a little bit special and he was treated differently. I don't think there was ever any animosity towards him. He was never treated any differently by any of the players. Like I said, he was one of the boys. The lads loved him. He loved the lads, and we all sort of understood that that's the way the manager wanted to treat him and get the best out of him. And if he was going to score winners and create performances like he did, then fair play.
What were your impressions, your first impressions of Eric Cantona?
Well, obviously I'd seen Eric before I'd signed for United, but of course you then get to know personalities when you sign for a club. And Eric was obviously a brilliant player, scored big goals for Man United, big character, good personality, good lad for a night out, good lad in the trenches when you go into away grounds. People kind of refer to him as a bit of a maverick, but he loved the game. He was a good lad for training. And again, he got United over the line. You know, when you think of the previous season where United blew it, I suppose, Eric came in, and that's been said before, that final piece of the jigsaw, and a good guy to go with it.
Like you said, he was a maverick. He hadn't really found a home in lots of different dressing rooms. Why do you think he found that at Old Trafford?
I think it was just the setting of the club, obviously the manager, the characters already at the club. I think the fact he could go in there and obviously to get him over the line, winning that league title. His personality, obviously people remember with his jersey and the collar. He's still, obviously the fans still love him at United. I think it was just that we talk about football nowadays, going back, the game is about characters and personalities, and Eric was up there with the best. But he also produced on the match days. It's no good. A lot of clubs can have mavericks, but they don't turn up at the weekend, they're kind of lads during the week. But Eric turned up on a Saturday and done the business. And particularly with my time at the club, he scored so many big goals in big games. And ultimately that's what it's about. And I think that's why the fans love him as well. And as I said, a brilliant personality in the dressing room when you're travelling with him. Good guy, a classy guy. And as I said, really, really good on a night out as well. Really.
Tell us that story. Tell me how
He liked it. I'm surprised we saw him there drinking a pint, because when we used to go, there was always champagne. He'd obviously made a few bob in his time at United. But really, really top.
Him and Roy used to wear the double denim, I think, on a Saturday night.
My jeans jacket there, yeah. Brilliant.
People always talked about him being a great trainer. That was always the route. Was it?
I always thought, Sergio, I thought that was exaggerated. There was stuff Eric used to stay behind 2 hours after everyone, and kids from the academy used to come over and watch him. No, but he was a really good trainer, but he didn't do any extra than anybody else. But the key was he'd done it in the big games.
Yeah, and you always said he was one of the best that you ever played with. I mean, you've talked about, we've seen some of the goals that he's scored, some of the trophies that he's won in his time at Manchester United. Where would you actually rank him in terms of
I don't know. I really don't know. But he was great as well for me, if you want to look at it from the footballing side of it. Obviously, I'd play midfield. And the great thing about Eric, I played with other strikers, Robbie. You want your strikers, when I was getting the ball in midfield, you want your strikers to show for it, and Eric was great, and that takes a lot of bravery and courage. And what I used to love about Eric, when he showed for it properly. Some strikers show for it, but they're like, I'm showing, but don't give it to me, I don't want it in tight areas. Whereas Eric had the presence, the confidence, the personality, particularly at Old Trafford, when you might be under pressure to say, yeah, give it to me, I'll deal with it. So it was great for me to be playing with him when you other lads running and people like Giggsy and Kanchelskis, but you need someone to see their eyes. But Eric was just, I can't speak highly enough of him.
Well, I mean, I was very much on the fringe at that time, a young player, sometimes travelling with the squad, but I'd obviously been a United fan all through my childhood, and seen Manchester United go close and fail to deliver so many times in terms of winning that title. So to get over the line, I always say that the best moment in my life as a football fan, football player, was that first title win. And obviously he was the person who sort of unlocked the door in the end. He was sort of that final piece of the jigsaw, as Martin Edwards said, and not really a lot to add from what Roy said about his character and personality. But for me, at my first title in 95-96, I know that at the time it was suggested that you sort of can't win anything with kids, but let's be really clear, we were sort of carried in that last 2-3 months of the season, and sort of one of the overriding memories that I have was just him turning up in the big moments, scoring that single goal in a game when you needed it most, and delivering in the big moments. Like say Roy said, the big goals, that is my memory of him. And like I say, his goals in that sort of title winning 95-96 were unbelievable. And then obviously in the final against Liverpool, a game that's going nowhere, 0-0, and he just turns up with a little bit of magic.
Roy referenced the impact he had on the stories about the impact that he had on the young players at Manchester United, but was it more actually what he did on the pitch in those big moments that was the inspiration?
It was, yeah. I mean, he demanded a lot from you, but not in a sort of verbal way. He would look at you if you didn't pass it to him right. It wasn't just Eric at that time that had a massive influence on us. We were so lucky, we had Brucey, Roy, Paul Ince, Mark Hughes. We had unbelievable characters in that dressing room to look up to, and they all brought something different. Eric was probably the quietest on the pitch out of most of them, but the one that actually You know, he was unselfish, but he demanded the sort of right quality of pass, the right weight of pass. I know he was on to me all the time about making sure that I passed to the right side of the defender so that he could actually take it away. And sort of I learnt a lot from that side of it, really, in terms of Eric. But like I say, we were very lucky to be influenced by a lot of great characters. But he was, and like I say, he delivered in the big moments.
You talked about the first time you met Eric Cantona and what he was like when he came in that dressing room, and you thought he was like the missing piece of that jigsaw and the aura that he brought with him. Can you just go back over that? So where were you when you found out he was coming from Leeds?
Oh, it was a strange one because I know that Howard Wilkinson was a manager at Leeds at the time, and I think he wanted to buy Dennis Irwin from us, and so I'm led to believe. And then Sir Alex was talking, and he said, "Oh, what about Eric?" And apparently, so he said, "Yeah, £1 million." So Fergie couldn't believe it at the time, and we were all like, "Who's this Cantona bloke?" We'd seen him score a hat trick for Leeds in the Charity Shield.
That's right.
And we thought, "Who's this Cantona bloke?" You know what I mean, don't know a lot about him, but he looks half decent. And then he first day he bowls into the training ground, bowls into the change room, and just he's 6 foot, probably 6'2" at the thing, but he looked about 8 foot. The way he just walked in, it looked like he'd been there longer than Brian Robson.
Really?
He just had that persona and that presence. You know, as I said, I went back to when I first went to United. I was like, a bit, apprehensive. Not to, I know I was a little bit younger than Eric, but it's still daunting to go to play for Manchester United, as we see now for some players. But he just felt like he had that face to say, "Well, I belong here. This is. I'm here for you." And he actually raised the bar. He raised the bar. I'm not saying we wouldn't have won the league without him, but he made sure we won the league because he was just on a different level.
Was he on a different level, even on the training pitch? The first, I don't know if you can remember the first time you saw him training, but were you like, wow?
What I do remember, and always hit home to me, is that every time we used to go to training in the morning, he used to be in at 9:30 on the training ground. He didn't used to train till 10:30. 9:30 on the training ground, warmed up himself. And it was just doing technical stuff for now, kicking the ball up in the air, chest, left foot, right foot, left foot. He did it every day. And by the time 2 months down the road, I was doing it with him. Giggsy, Sharpie, just working on our weaknesses. And you think about that's the effect he had on us. As players, that's what he gave us. And he was a special man. He was a giant of a man, and great player.
Another of his great decisions was to bring Eric Cantona to the club.
Well, we were lucky. We were lucky that there was something not right with the relationship between Eric Cantona and Leeds United, and we happened to find out about it, and suddenly, very quickly, he became one of our players. I think that Eric Cantona was a single-minded person that needed treated differently than other players, and that's a manager's skill, how he handles it. And I think that what Leeds suffered maybe was a benefit to us, and once we decided on the way to handle Eric Cantona, we got wonderful football from him. He was just a magical player who the public loved. They loved him because he was eccentric in a way. He was crazy in certain ways, but he didn't like officialdom particularly. And if he could be protected from them, things weren't so bad. But he loved playing. He was great at his position, and he knitted the whole team together. Eric Cantona, it revolved around Eric Cantona for a great period here, and the start of us starting to win championships really was when Eric Cantona came, and it was made for him because not only was he coming to a new club. And he was being handled properly himself individually, but he had at his disposal the best young players. The two Nevilles, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs. He had the best young players suddenly that were all around him, and the situation was made for success really.